All right, we are live. What's up, beasties? It's me, it's Triple B, and my special guest. Let me see if I get this right. Boom, Cal Logan is here. How you
I
doing,
waved too
Cal?
early. I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks so much for coming on, man. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So let's see. Right now, I think we've got Mr. Timothy Wolf. Have you ever talked to Tim before?
I believe so. Yeah.
All right, yeah, he's an awesome author himself as well. Thanks for being here, Tim. We'll probably have some people trickling in, but we've got a couple more people hopping in. So I just want to start off and let you introduce yourself, and then give us a pitch from the author's mouth himself about what your book is about, which is this gorgeous book right here, Shadowbane.
So for those who don't know me, my name is Cal Logan. My day-to-day job, I'm a personal trainer, and recreationally, I'm a competitive powerlifter. And I've been writing seriously for about 8 years. Had like a brief stint in traditional publishing, which I don't know, maybe we talk about at some point tonight. And then I decided to go self-published. My debut novel, Shadowbane, which Chris held up there behind you, or the camera, came out in September. It is an epic fantasy / grimdark inspired by and set in a world based on feudal Japan. And it follows two twins who are mercenary demon hunters who are hired to track down and investigate a cult that worships the demons and is responsible for bringing them back.
Oh, so sweet. And it's on my TBR to read soon, but I did read the first couple chapters just because I wanted to before I had you on. And dude, it just kicks off right away into just awesomeness. Like they're the twins are fighting serpent women. And it's just awesome, dude.
The Shinari, yeah.
Yes. When they've got like a big tiger with them, like it's pretty sweet.
I wanted to set the tone in that first chapter, and I think it's and that way, people like read the sample on Amazon, they're gonna know if it's for them or not.
Yes.
I realize that it's pretty intense, it's pretty violent, it's very dark, not just on a violence level, but just thematically. And I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, so I figure might as well just tell people what they're in for early, and that way hopefully there's people know what they're getting into.
Oh yeah. Well, you know whose cup of tea all that is? This guy right here. That is all. Sounds lovely to me. All right, we got some more people in here now. Josh is here from Already Overbooked. What's up? Dr. L from Novel Insights, who also, which I found was funny because his name is Logan, and he said his brother's name is Cal.
I promise I didn't steal it from you. It's a pen name. The Logan thing is a Wolverine tribute.
Ooh, I like that. I love Wolverine. Mr. John Douglas is here. Nice. He's got your book too.
Hi, John. Sorry, Josh, I missed you. Hello.
Let's see. He said, "Oh, I like that. Giving it a like and comment. Helpful for the algorithm." I appreciate that, man. Lurking and working. He's always lurking and working. He's such a multitasker. And then Tim is here. Yep, Tim. What's up?
What's up, Tim?
Boys. Some awesome people. There's some awesome Tims in this community, let me tell you. All right, so I think we are good for now on people that have shouted out in the comments. All right, so you told us what your book's about a little bit. So I guess we'll talk about a lot of things, but just to start off, tell me about your a little more about your journey into getting published. Like, when did you decide that you wanted to write a book?
So I've been writing all my life. I was a kid that just took every in-class writing assignment up to 11 and exceeded I didn't have to worry about the minimum paragraph count. I always did the most possible. I wrote my first book when I was 17. It sucked. It's the classic like dumpster manuscript, right? I'm putting this away. I tried to get it published and it got rejected across the board. It was terrible.
That's awesome that you tried to get it published at 17 though, man. That's awesome.
A lot of hubris there. But so that was the first one, and I don't really count that because it was before I decided to start writing seriously, which I did when I was in my 20s. So about 8 years ago now. And my first book took me about 4 years to get an agent on that one, and it got very close to getting a deal with Blackstone. It made it to acquisitions, and then it died on submission after that point. They didn't move on with it. That was around the time when I was drafting Shadowbane, and then I finished it at the end of 2022.
Okay.
Might have been 2021. Sorry.
Oh,
and gave it to my agent, and he'd want a standalone, so it was really big. It was 200,000 words. It was too long, right?
Yeah.
And then, he sits on it for a few months, and he tells me that he's leaving the industry. So, and that he hadn't read it, so he didn't have feedback for me.
What?
And he offered to connect me with a few other agents at his agency, but none of them represented the type of fantasy that I write. Very much more in the kind of like quirky adventure fantasy.
Yeah.
So I knew it wasn't a good fit, and I didn't want to go back and query from the start because no agent's going to look twice at a 200,000 word manuscript.
Right.
So I didn't write on that project for a while. I just played some video games, wrote a terrible movie script, and just thought about what I was trying to do. And then I decided that I was going to self-publish, and this 200,000 word story was actually 2 books that were underwritten. And so I split it in half, and the first half that then I fleshed out is now Shadowbane.
Oh, wow. Okay. So then is the sequel the other half, or did you start from scratch with the other half?
That's the other half, yeah. Okay. The ending, I changed the ending, but the point at where it ends is the same.
Okay.
And there was basically the second book is what was a very rushed third act of when it was a standalone.
Okay, cool. Very cool. So what's your plans for the series? Is it going to be a trilogy, a duology, longer than that? 3, nice.
It'll be 3, and then I'm done.
You're done with that one.
Yeah, I got other. I have other projects that I'm excited to work on.
Nice.
And I think realistically, I don't think I can extend it beyond a third book. It was originally just going to be these 2 because remember it was a standalone originally, and I changed the ending enough to allow myself a third book because at that point I had a few more ideas I wanted to cook with. So, but I'm very much once it's done, it's done. I hate the endless sequels or just stretching stuff on endlessly. I can't stand that. So, as a reader or as a TV show watcher, so I don't want to do that as a writer. I want to tell the story and let it be done and move on.
Yeah. No, I think as readers, we all can agree with that, and writers in here too. So we had a couple more people come in. Molly McCabe is here. Hey, Molly. Good to see you. And Alex is here. What's up? And I'm guessing from what Tim said, you guys came here even after you went somewhere else. I appreciate that. Thanks for taking time to hang out with us. So you talked about how in the book there's it's grimdark as in the action and the gore and the fighting and everything, but you also mentioned thematically it's dark too. So just talk a little more about that and why you decided to do that.
I just like it. Not that I don't enjoy some lighthearted stuff from time to time, but I just think there's a lot to explore and play with if you let the bad guy win sometimes, or if you're okay with leaning into the really dark nature of the human condition sometimes. I think that opens up some really interesting stuff. And unfortunately, grimdark it kind of had its day in the sun, and it gets characterized now as being very edgelordy and whatnot. But I think that's kind of reductive, and I think that there are some really neat aspects to the genre that that you can explore.
Yeah.
So the series, for example, the title is called A Schism of Souls, right? And a schism is basically a deep and irreconcilable divide. And so this is the story of Jin and Shura, who are twins, right? And they're referenced as on the back matter, there's a quote from the book, "One womb, one soul, two fates." And so they're referenced as essentially having, being twins, being part of the same soul, right? And this is the story of how they grow apart. And there's a lot of, bitterness and choices they make that divide them. And that's something that, it's not really fun to read siblings or two people who love each other being driven to, to basically hate each other by the circumstances they find themselves in. That's pretty dark. So there's that. And there's a lot of the struggle between good and evil, basically, the duality of man.
Yeah. That's very cool. I guess before I ask you more about before you wrote the book, I do want to know, tell me about how the cover came about. It's an awesome one.
So I commissioned this. My artist, he's credited on the back. His name's Andre Bat. And he deserves all the credit for this because I commissioned a contest on 99 designs. For those of you who don't know, basically it's a website where you give a brief and a prompt, a prize, and you get to review all the submissions and you award the prize money to the winner, and then that's your image. So I'd used it with some success for some character art in the past. So I initially did the contest format, and the submissions I was getting were really bad. And it's not really their fault. It's just I gave way too much information, and I was, but not in a good way. It was kind of paralysis by analysis, and I don't think I really understood the purpose of a book cover. So I wasn't happy with the submissions I got. So I canceled the contest and then started seeking out individual artist portfolios. Andre's stuff blew me away, so I contacted him and was basically like, "I will do whatever it takes to have you, do my artwork." And so he's asking, and he was excited about the project. So he's asking some really good questions. We're having a good brainstorming situation. And he goes, "Well, to tell you the truth, I don't think your concept is going to work. What I wanted was basically a single image that is from the story." And he said it was a cool image, but it's not going to signify to readers what the story's about. And that's the main purpose of the cover, is just to get them to stop scrolling. The cover captures their attention. The blog gets their interest, and then hopefully readers want to read and buy the book. So he just threw it out there. He's like, "Look, I think your story, it's not that it doesn't have other themes or aspects to it, but at its core, it is a demon slaying, high octane adventure." He says, "I think we should put that front and center because that's going to attract your target audience." And I had initially I would joked about not wanting guy with sword on the cover because that's every fantasy cover. And he says, "Well, it's every cover for a reason because that's the genre. You can play with it a little bit, but at the same time, you need to tell people what they're in for." So I trusted him. I let him, show me a sketch, and I was in. I was like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing, and I'm so glad I just kind of took a back seat and let the artist be the artist.
It came out awesome, dude. Love it. Absolutely love it. And everybody agrees. Alex said, "Great cover." I agree. It is awesome.
Thank you.
So you talked about how much you just love the dark fantasy stuff and grimdark. So when did that start with you? What were some influences for your writing? What from before? Was it books? Was it shows? Was it video games? Was it everything?
Definitely a mix of as far as influences for the writing. A mix of all three. I grew up on Redwall,
me too.
Harry Potter, Aragon, and Drizzt Do'Urden, Legend of Drizzt. With that one, Redwall being the biggest two for sure. Okay. Especially as far as just straight fantasy goes. And I read all that, from when I was a little kid through college age, and then I was in my early 20s, and I picked up Sword of the North from a Walmart bin or something. I was on vacation, needed a book, and that's by Luke Skoll. I don't know if you've read it. It's a great trilogy.
Oh, is it the
The Grimm Company?
Yeah, the Grimm Company. I haven't, but I want to. Yeah, I've heard really good things about that one.
It's excellent. And so I picked up the second book because I shoot from the hip a lot, and I was like, this looks cool. And then I was like, what? I was like, why don't I understand anything that's happening? And then I realized it was the sequel. So I went and bought the rest of the trilogy.
Nice.
But that was the first thing that exposed me to grimdark. I was thinking when I was reading, I was appalled in a really good way. The world just seemed so fucked up and dirty, and everyone's corrupt. The good guys are the people you're rooting for they're kind of jerks to each other, and they're all in it for themselves, their own selfish reasons. And it just felt so real and so rich, and it was just funny and quirky, but not in a cutesy way, and in a very ironic and cynical way. And it just resonated with me. And then from there, I got into Joe Abercrombie, who's my favorite writer. And then I'm actually working through The Black Company by Glenn Cook right now, which is kind of the godfather of. Yeah. You read Black Company?
No, I want to. You're speaking my language, man. I grew up on Redwall. Joe Abercrombie's my favorite. First Law got me into grimdark, and I want to read Grimm Company and Black Company. So
yeah, they're great reads. There's an interesting question in the chat here. Novel Insights. So he's asking about kind of the opposite to dark fantasy. There we go.
Yep.
So what we're talking about, grimdark, it's kind of it's like the most. I don't want to say like hardcore aspect of fantasy because there's different elements that you could argue make fantasy hardcore or not. But I think a staple of fantasy, especially classic fantasy, is when the heroes win, right? And the person who does the noble thing and puts themselves at risk ultimately overcomes evil and wins. And Grimdark basically says, yeah, that's not going to happen because so that very noble and idealistic character who takes a lot of risks usually gets killed. So it has this underbelly of cynicism and dark humor and of selfish characters kind of working out. And that's different from straight dark fantasy, which just contains elements of darkness, but does not necessarily have the innate brutality and self-motivated characters that Grimdark might have.
Yeah, that was a very good description. And I agree. Timothy said, I hear a dog.
There is a dog in here. He's loud, but he's tiny.
I was going to say, what kind of dog is it?
He's a dachshund. I can probably.
Oh.
Okay, no, he went missing. So my wife just got home, and
oh yeah.
So he was in here with me, when she didn't get home, and then she very sneakily just got him out of there. So she knows I'm doing a podcast. So.
Yep. That's good. What's the dog's name?
Rizzo.
Nice. That's a cool name for a Dachshund. Let's see. I wanted to show Tim's thing too when we were talking about the cover. Yes.
So that was my instinct, right? Because I wanted to stand out, but then you go, well, he says there's conventions for a reason, and he was 100% right. So I think more guys with swords on
ordinary. Yeah, this is no ordinary guy with a sword on a cover either. That's pretty BA, man.
I was like, all right, if we're doing this, he has to be mauling a demon. He goes, I can do that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, the cover up can't be letting that other cover show. All right. So, and you said you love to play video games. So what kind of games do you like to play?
So I grew up on originally like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VII, as well as like Warcraft 2 and the Baldur's Gate series, like BG 1 and 2, the old PC games.
Oh, yeah.
I have not played a lot recently.
Okay. Yeah.
I think the most recent game I played was Elden Ring. I don't have the free time I used to, so
I hear you.
Gotta pick my battles.
Yeah.
But a big influence for this, particularly Jin's combat style, was actually Kratos from God of War. Just the way that he, again, just bodies and mauls his enemies, and that just innate physical aggression. I really tried to channel that with Jin's character.
Yeah.
Whereas Shura is still a very effective combatant, but she's a little more refined and calculated and strategic, and Jin just dives in head first and swings.
For sure. I love it. I love that dynamic, how they're different like that. That's cool. Senna's here. What's up, Senna? Thanks for coming in. And then Tim said that's a great lineup of games and that Chrono Trigger doesn't get the love it deserves. I agree.
Top 3 all time, in my opinion.
I know. You don't see games like that anymore.
Yeah, it's I don't think you can. I think
it wouldn't do well with gamers now, or new gamers, I don't think.
Nowadays it's very much about kind of the features and the expansiveness and connecting and playing against other people, stuff like that. And Chrono Trigger was, very streamlined, very story character driven. There are just other aspects that people gravitate towards for games now. Yeah. And at least for now, it seems like storytelling is not that there aren't good stories in video games nowadays, but it's not the primary draw.
Like
it's a really nice bonus if a story has excellent playability, or a game has excellent playability and a good story. But like Call of Duty had no story, and it was one of the most popular games of all time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly, for sure. So you talked about that you wrote this when you were 17. So was trying to get it published and it not going well, like what made you decide to take writing serious, or was there something else that finally clicked where you're like, I just really want to go for this, or was it kind of that happening?
When I wrote the book when I was 17, and it wasn't Shadowbane, it was a completely different story, right?
Yeah.
And I was, I guess, probably at the time a little disappointed because I thought that I would just get published, and but then I went to college and did other stuff, and I wrote a little bit recreationally, but nothing crazy, just some short stories and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I always had, I didn't get discouraged because I always had the drive to write. I came back into the real world ironically had a little bit more time on my hands than I did in college because I went to grad school and I was working a bunch of jobs, and life was pretty busy. And I just kept thinking like, hey, like I have an idea for a story. I have an idea. And I decided, okay, you know what? If you don't do this now, you're never going to do it. So I just started to do it. And the goal eventually is to write full time. And I think even back then I knew that's what I wanted to do, because this is something that, I've had that itch my whole life. Like I said, even when I was 10 years old, I was writing stories for fun.
Yep. That's awesome, dude. Let's see. Oh yeah, I was just gonna ask. Alex want to know, what'd you go to grad school for? And then I was gonna say, what's your day job right now?
So I studied exercise physiology and exercise science.
Yeah, you said what you do.
School undergrad, right? I'm a full-time personal trainer, and then I compete in powerlifting. Just at a competitive but recreational level.
Very
cool.
I
don't make money from it, but I've competed nationally once, and
that's awesome, man. So I don't know if you've seen his channel at all, but Jake from Nerd Level Rising, he does some bodybuilding stuff. So when you have like a competition or something coming up, do you yes, you are a full-time beast, my friend. I agree with that. Are there certain lifestyle changes you have to make, like with diet or anything like that, when you have a competition coming up?
Oh yeah. So I usually prep for about 3 months, and what I do is powerlifting. So it's not about how I look; it's about how much weight you can squat, bench, and deadlift for one rep. So it's just all about how strong you are. I start going to bed really early. I have a lot less time to write. Basically, lifting and eating becomes my first priority. In my day-to-day like workouts, I do about 2 hours a day, 4 days a week. That's sustainable and feels good. Meet prep, I have done as much as training 3 hours a day, 6 days a week, which I think I overdid actually, but I'm probably working, training, working out, or trying to recover closer to 10 to 12 hours a week as opposed to 8. And that doesn't count like the time I put into making sure that I have my food ready to go. And I have to eat like 4,500 calories a day to recover from the training session. And then just mentally, I don't have a lot of time to think about much else. So the creativity suffers. And you're just too like sore and burnt out and exhausted to put effort into much else.
Yeah. Oh man, I bet. So what's your max that you powerlifted?
So my best total ever is, so your total is all your 3 best lifts in a competition put together. At nationals, I totaled 1,334. So that was a 485 pound squat, I think it was 308. It might have been 313 bench, and then a 540 pound deadlift. I went for 500 that day, missed it, and then so I got 3rd place at that competition. Missed it. Wouldn't have made a difference between 2nd and 3rd, but I really wanted a 500 squat. And then in training for it the year after, I blew my back out. And then it took me 2 years to recover. And then last year I competed last December, and I got my 500 pound squat.
Nice.
So and that was in competition as well, just not in the one where I hit my best ever total.
Man. Yeah, these comments are spot on. Explains the main character being such a beast.
Weight class 165 pounds.
Yep. That's impressive, man.
I competed at 181 when I squatted 500. I was coming off injury, and I was like, I think that extra 15 pounds is going to help me. And so at that point, I didn't really care about like pound for pound strength. I was just like, I just want this fucking number in my belt, and,
Oh man. So do you win like medals or trophies, or what do you get for those competitions?
Yeah, they'll give you a little medal or a trophy or something.
Okay. Sweet.
I think nationals was like a decent medal. But there's a bunch of organizations, and they all have their own national. So it didn't mean that I'm the 3rd best lifter in the country, like, overall. I was the 3rd best lifter who decided to fly out to Ohio to lift that year in that one federation.
But still, that's probably, I mean, how many people was it out of? Probably a lot.
There were 10 guys in my weight class.
Yeah, that's good, man.
Across like the total rankings that year for my weight class, I might have been maybe like top 60, maybe 50. and that would be across like all federations.
That's awesome.
But there are some
That's
like
really good.
absolute monsters.
Oh,
A fellow powerlifter. All right.
Yeah, I did not know that about Josh. That's pretty cool, man. The things you find out. You think you know somebody.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's kind of like reading. It's kind of like it has like people think that like heavy lifters are meatheads, but we're just a bunch of nerds. That's what like this because there's a point where you can't get good at that by just being like, let's go. You have to like intellectualize it. You have to be like, well,
Right.
if I sit back more and turn my wrist down, that'll actually activate my hamstrings better for a better like hip position. And it's all
Oh,
nerd.
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a good question. Have you ever seen people show up who just cannot lift at all, and you wonder how the heck did they get here?
Yeah, it's actually it's a pretty welcoming and inclusive sport, which is ironic because you have some dudes who are really big and really scary looking. The first time I ever competed, I like literally ran into a guy who was opening his squat at 800 pounds, meaning that he's starting there, and he ended up with about 880. Right?
That's insane.
And like this dude could have eaten me, and I bumped into him, and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and he's like, "You're fine, man. Like, good luck with your lifts." Just super nice.
Yeah,
People are very welcoming. There are accommodations for people with disabilities, like a prosthetic leg or a wheelchair.
Okay.
I've seen. I actually train a powerlifter who's 67, and he started in his 60s, so he's not putting up crazy numbers or anything.
Yeah, good
he still gets. He still gets his applause. You know.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
When he hits his lifts, you've seen everything from like 13-year-old girls, right, like lifting for the first time, to like 78-year-old guys, and everything in between.
That's cool. That's good that it's inclusive like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I love the sport.
Yeah. So when did you start getting into lifting and stuff? Was that when you were in like high school or when?
Yeah, I joined the wrestling team on a dare. I was 90 pounds and not even 5 feet tall.
Really?
So the coach looks me up and down and goes, "We got to put you in the weight room." And the bet was that I couldn't make it through the whole wrestling season. So I went in with like a major chip on my shoulder, started lifting, and then got into strength conditioning through internship with a CrossFit gym when I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
And those coaches were really knowledgeable. Like CrossFit gets a bad rap, but it's like a lot of things. It's all about how you do it.
Right.
And they were really, really patient, really, methodical guys. They knew what they were doing. So I started doing that. I competed in both CrossFit and Olympic lifting a little bit.
Wow.
And then did powerlifting and found something I really liked. And that was what I zeroed in on in my mid-20s.
Man, that's awesome. I'm finding all sorts of things out. Molly was
a wrestler. There we go.
Heck yeah. Senna, I don't know. You take care of those horses and stuff. I'm sure you could lift quite a bit.
We need to form like a strong nerd coalition.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I'm in. So when's your next one?
TBD. I took this year off from competing. I might compete next year. See if the stars align. This year was the year of writing. So we bought a house, and I knew I was going to release Shadowbane, and I wanted to put the sequel in a really good position. Nice. So if it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. I'm at the point where like I'm pretty happy with the numbers I've hit and the career I had. I think I have, another couple good years left in me, but I'm not at the point where I'm making myself compete twice a year. I've probably done about 8 or 9 meets, at this point.
Oh yeah. You don't want to overdo it for sure.
Yeah. And I'm not getting any younger. I have to pick my battles a little more. I could train like an idiot when I was 25. I can't do that anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's smart. It's good to be smart the older you get, right? Start listening to the nerd inside of you that's saying, "Ooh."
Yeah. But every once in a while, I'm like, man, like I've been lifting easy for 6 months. I've been enjoying it a little too much. Like, time to sign up and go smash my head against the wall for a little bit.
There you go. Yeah, as long as it's still fun, like that's a good way to do it. A good release. I like it. Yeah. Well, and I'm okay with you writing more and lifting less, because from judging from the first couple chapters, I'm going to love that, and I'm going to be ready for more from you, man. So I think that sounds like a good plan. So you were talking about Redwall. Have you read all of them all the way through?
Just about. I know there's a few I left off towards the end.
Yeah, me too.
Because those came out when I had moved on to
Yep.
kind of more onto
Same.
like young adult level.
Yep.
So I think probably the most recent one I have, I think it's on my shelf up there, would probably be Tagarung, that or Rackety Tam, whichever one came out after that.
Oh, that's the one I left off on.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But everything else sequentially, I know they got published outside of chronological order, but the whole story from like Legend of Luke or Lord Brocktree, whenever it starts all the way through, through Tagarung. I've read. What was the first Redwall book you picked up?
It was Redwall, the very first.
It was.
Yep. Yeah, I got in a library in elementary school, and then I was hooked, and then I just read them all. Yeah.
So
How about you?
I found mine in the same situation. I was probably 9 years old. I think I was in 4th grade, and it was Marl Fox, and so I just picked it up, and like I said, and I was like, oh, this looks cool, and I remember because that was my first like big fantasy series, but I'd always I'd read some other stuff that I liked, and this just hooked me right away, and I remember the scene where Jangler like steals the fox's axe like with his sling, like she's trying to hit him with it, and he yanks out of her hand and decapitates her with it, and my eyes like popped out of my face. I was 9 years old. I was like, oh my god!
Like looking around, is it okay that I have this book?
Yeah.
I know, man. I was the same. I love that. I mean, because it's for kids, but like it's pretty dark, and
there was some pretty intense violence in that. He doesn't describe the gore, but there are serious battles, and it was the first books I read where they kill some main characters.
Yeah. Well, and it's so like cozy that you really like love these characters, and then they just hideously die, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's
favorite Redwall book.
Yeah. What would be your favorite one?
Long Patrol, which I read right after Marl Fox. So I'm a sucker for a good last stand.
Yeah, that one is really good.
Long Patrol was where they basically killed off half the cast, and I couldn't believe it.
Yep.
Martin the Warrior is the first. All right.
Yeah, I think that was first. Because there's Legend of Luke was in there too, but yeah, I think Martin the Warrior was first chronologically, right? I think my favorite was probably, I can't remember now. Was there? Let me see. I've got some back here. Let me look. I always get them mixed up.
You guys are getting me hyped up. Now I want to just do a speed run of Redwall.
I know, me too. Ooh, I do have Long Patrol. That takes you back probably, right?
Oh, yeah.
That was a good one.
Your copy looks in a lot better condition than mine.
Well, I actually found these at a thrift store. I found a bunch of them, and I just snagged them all. Like somebody must have unhauled all their Redwall books, because I only have the first one from back in the day. But I can never remember if it was the Salamandstron, or because then there's one that's called Lord Brocktree too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember which one it was. It must have been, I don't know. It had to have been the Brocktree one, because I think it was the first book I ever read that like made me tear up because of what happens at the end. So that one I think has always stuck with me. But Redwall too.
Sorry for spoilers on if someone hasn't read this, on books that were published like 30 years ago, but those both end with the Badger Lords dying.
Oh yeah.
So that's probably why you're getting them confused.
That's true. That's why you're right.
But they're both like the dude just having a heroic last stand, or I think in one of them he gets killed really unfairly.
Yes.
Because he's fighting like a sneaky assassin type of character.
Yeah. Well, and he has like this moment with his daughter, and it's just like, got me. Got me.
Yeah,
we have a couple more friends in here.
That guy knew how to write stories. That
he did, man. He wrote really good.
Like, and even reading as an adult, you'd probably take away different things than you would as a kid, and that's how you know that's great storytelling, when it'll resonate on different levels with different different people and age groups and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Grimfell's in here. What's up? The rock star is here, and some Okie dude. What's up, Britain? Thanks for being here, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, his stuff was good. I never read his. He wrote that trilogy, the Castaway or the Flying Dutchman, or I can't remember what it's called, but with actual people, like kind of a pirate seafaring.
I read the first one.
Did you?
Yeah. I like Redwall better, but if you're a fan of, for like a kid who's a fan of just the author in general, it's still a good read.
Okay. I always wondered. Yeah, that's good stuff. Eventually I want to do like a video just ranking them, or like saying why you should read Redwall, because I feel like a lot more people have read it than I think. I never hear about it, and then when I ask people or they mention it, I'm like, yes.
No one used to talk about that series, and then
Yeah.
it came up once or twice under other people talk about their influences and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was nice for me to see something because I got made fun of for reading that growing up.
Oh,
It was nice to
me
see other
too,
people
man.
who were into it. They're like, "Oh, you like the Talking Mouse Warrior Sword books too?"
Yeah.
Like yeah, they're pretty awesome.
Yes, I do. Did you watch the animated movies they made? I think it was PBS that made them, but did you ever watch them?
I didn't.
They were all right, but not, obviously PBS made them. They weren't super true to the books,
Yeah.
Nobody's getting decapitated in those. Oh man. All right. So what about like TV shows and movies and stuff? What are your some of your favorite TV shows or movies that you like to get into? What genres?
Genre definitely veer towards for movies like drama and like epic and historical fantasy or epic and historical fiction stuff like that.
Nice.
So movie wise, like Kingdom of Heaven, Last Mohicans, Lord of the Rings, Master and Commander, Last Samurai, stuff like that.
Very cool.
I also like war movies a lot. So like Fury, Lone Survivor, again like Heroic Last Stands. If there's one in there, I probably like it.
Those are all great ones, man. What about shows? Like, have you watched anything on streaming or anything lately?
I watched Penguin recently. I really liked that.
Me too.
Since that, I've had a hard time finding a newer show that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
All right. See, we got some fans of Last Mohicans, Fury. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
They're all such good ones. Who's Secondhand Lions? I haven't heard of that one for a while.
All right, I gotta check that out.
Yeah, that one's a good one.
TV wise, I'd go with Breaking Bad. That's like my all-time favorite.
Oh yes, Breaking Bad was really good. What about like I feel like FX had some sweet shows for a while there, and AMC, like Sons of Anarchy. Did you ever watch that one?
Couldn't get into that one. I never really tried it. Like my wife watched it, and I saw some episodes here and there, but it wasn't a big one for me.
Yeah.
I tend to not be big on crime stuff, which is ironic because I love Breaking Bad. But when
it's different though, because he was a regular guy that got sucked into it,
Yeah, but stuff like Sopranos and Sons of Anarchy. Sopranos I watched, and I can see why some people think it's the greatest show ever. It just didn't. Like I can appreciate it and I enjoyed it, but it didn't resonate with me the way that something like Breaking Bad or early Walking Dead did.
Oh yeah, yep. Oh yeah, early Walking Dead was good.
Yeah.
Did you ever read the comics?
I didn't read the comics, but I read a lot of the companion novels.
Yeah. Oh yeah, those were good
some
too.
that give backstory on the governor and stuff like that, and those were really cool.
Yep, those were really good. Let's see. Brett agrees. You have
Last Kingdom. Yes. No one watches that. So
I feel like it's picking up steam though, man. A lot of people are starting to talk about it.
So after Game of Thrones, broke my heart because that show was perfect for a few seasons, and then it was like flawed but great, and then it just nosedived.
Yeah.
And I got to cut that off. I was going to go on a 20-minute tangent about how bad the last season was, but it left a really bad taste in my mouth. And then we tried Last Kingdom, and I was cautious with it because I didn't want to get my hopes up. And I was like, it started off good, and it got better and better. And like 3 to 4 seasons in, I was like, this show is incredible. If they mess this up, I'm going to break something. And they stuck the landing so hard.
Yeah. It
was like when in gymnastics, like when they come down and just don't even flinch, and you're like, that was perfect. I was so glad they just nailed the ending, and then they walked away. They didn't do an extra season. I know they did the movie. But the show was so good.
I haven't watched Vikings yet either. I've heard good things about it. Did you watch that one?
I really liked Vikings until people who have watched it probably know the point where I disliked it, and it's not because of the thing that happens. It's just because afterwards I feel like the show kind of lost some direction. But the first couple seasons are top notch. They're right up there with anything else from Game of Thrones or Last Kingdom.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know.
That's true. Vikings does have this crazy barbarity to it, because the first couple seasons they're just raiding places, and you're kind of rooting for people who are like slaughtering innocent people.
Yeah.
And and I think one of the things that Vikings does better than those other two shows is it really drops you into a culture that's very foreign. and it does a really good job with the world building from a like religious and cultural perspective.
Kingdom, the Korean show. I think I heard of that one. Well, maybe.
Is that with zombies?
I was gonna say, is that the zombie one? I don't know. Josh agreed with you though. After that thing, don't say anything because I want to watch it.
Yeah, it's still very much worth watching.
Ooh, Peaky Blinders is another one I haven't watched but want to.
Love Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, I've heard that one is really good. Oops, it was zombie.
Yeah. It was the zombie one.
Yeah. I was gonna say. Yep. Oh, Britain's a big crime nut. Yeah, I know you are, my friend. Oh man.
Yeah, my wife eats up the crime stuff, the true crime, the made up crime, all the crime. She's super into it.
If we start watching those like Forensic Files or the True Crime, all those shows that are so quick, and then the next one comes on, she's like, "Oh wait, don't turn it off yet. Now I gotta see what happens."
Yeah. I occasionally, I'll be like writing like headphones plugged in, and then I'm on the couch, but I'm not paying attention. She's watching something, and it'll be like inside world's most savage prison. I'll take my earphone out, and the guy will be like, "And then I scalped him with a rusty nail." I'm like, "What? Like, what did I just? What did I start paying attention to?" It's just this like serial killer confessing all his crimes that he did in prison. Like, oh my god.
Oh yeah. You just slowly put your earbud back in. All right. Oh man. So yeah, I don't know. Grimfell, you're talking about the Kingdom with the zombies or Peaky Blinders. I haven't watched a lot of these, so he could be talking about many of these things.
Peaky Blinders is excellent.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if you've read the Bones. That's very similar. It's like Peaky Blinders in a fantasy world. So I really want to read that too. Yeah, I've not yet, but I want to. So do you, now that you're writing and you're so busy with all the things you're doing, do you still read nowadays? Do you have time to read, or is there not as much time because of you got to manage your time? You got to pick and choose, right?
Yeah. So for a long time, I read a lot less when I was writing, and then I would go through big periods. Like I would smash a trilogy in like 2 weeks after I, finished a draft of something. I'm trying to be a little bit more balanced in my approach, because I think I have to pour into my cup while I consume it, or while I like pour from it. I think for a while I was concerned about reading while I was in the creative process because I didn't want to be too influenced by one thing.
Right.
But then the irony is that by not continuously like expanding what I'm reading, I am being more heavily influenced by the thing I've read most recently.
Yeah.
So, so I read like, I think, and I read pretty slowly, so it still pales in comparison to like hardcore readers.
Yeah.
I probably read more this year than I have in the past like 3 to 4.
Wow, that's good.
Like, Shadowbane is very heavily inspired by Japanese mythology and feudal Japan. So I wanted to read some other things that were in the same vein. So I read Sword of Kaigen earlier this year, which was phenomenal. And then I read Poppy War. I read the first 2. I'm holding off on the third. I honestly thought it was a little overrated. It's not bad, but it just I expected more because some people are saying it's like a masterpiece, like it's like a top 100 book of all time. And then I picked up I read a little bit of nonfiction to like palate cleanse, and then I picked up The Black Company because I was like, man, I gotta get to the roots of my genre. And it's really cool to see his work. And I haven't read a ton of New Grimdark, mostly like I said, Joe Abercrombie and the Skull.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But even that, it's really cool to see how Glenn Cook has undoubtedly influenced those other guys. I mean, Grim Company is a classic, tribute to Black Company, and you can see Glenn Cook and Joe Abercrombie's like humorous style it's really cool to see, and the writing's great. Stories are entertaining. Like it reads a lot differently than newer stuff, but in a way that's like very refreshing and you can tell it's from the 80s, but in like a good way.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I dig it. Let's see. Oh yeah, everybody was talking about Peaky Blinders with zombies. That would be pretty sweet. I agree.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. I was gonna say I haven't read Poppy Wars because people that have similar tastes as me, like you in reading tastes and stuff, they say kind of the same thing, that as it goes on, it's the first one's good, but then it's like, it's not this crazy awesome thing like it's built up to be, kind of.
Yeah. So I like the first one enough to read the second one. The second one, kind of, the books are almost opposites. The first book starts off so good. The first third, maybe half the book, is incredible. And then pacing wise, it just really misses for me. And the second book really drags for the first half, and then it has a good enough ending to where I was like, okay, this kind of redeemed it, and a lot of stuff tied together. But I really think it's just pacing. It's, it's not poorly written. It's not, but just there's at times it feels like there's not a lot of forward plot progression.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the character there's not a lot of character depth either.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
So even though they put the main character through some horrific things, and it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of like layers, and so because of that, it becomes a little monotonous to read 300 pages of kind of the same thing without much evolution, like internal or external change.
Right.
I like to see something changing a little bit.
Yeah. For sure.
As we move through the story.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Some more love for the Shadowbane cover, and I agree. It's a stunning. It's awesome. You were talking about so when did you decide that Shadowbane was going to have like that kind of Japanese culture influence in it? Like, how long did you know that? From the very start, or was it something that you kind of came into as you started to write it?
Pretty much from the start.
Okay.
So what inspired the idea was I was having this crazy nightmare where me and my wife were being attacked by like demons that possess you.
Oh, man. Right? Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty scary.
That's terrifying.
And I woke up and I was freaking out, like my heart's racing, and my dog starts barking and freaking out.
Oh, no.
And so I got a little unnerved. So I thought someone was trying to get into our apartment. So I got up and checked it, and it was fine. It was quiet. So I come back to bed. I've kind of calmed down by this point. And then our dog, he's never done this before, but he's a dachshund, so he's small, right? He lays sideways across my chest like this and just posts up and just staring at the door, like in a super alert.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah.
If dogs can see things we can't.
Yeah. And so he stayed like that for an hour, and I had the same thought. I'm like, I don't really believe in a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't help but entertain the thought.
Mm-hmm.
And so the initial concept was, like what if, demon hunters used animals to help them? And so the initial pitch was a guy and his dog hunting demons.
Yeah.
And then,
which is cool.
And I wanted non-Western mythology, because a lot of Western iterations of demons are biblical, and they tend to be more spiritual, right? They tend not to take physical form.
Right.
And I've always been interested in feudal Japan. And Japanese mythology is so hardcore, dude. And it's really varied. You'll see as you read Shadowbane, there's a ton of different kinds of, they call them yokai, but that encompasses demons and spirits and other non-human entities. So I just knew there was a lot of resources to draw from. Nice. And then I thought that it would be really cool to explore a non-European setting, in a kind of like hack and slash demon slayer type of adventure.
Yeah, heck yeah. So, that's awesome, man.
Thanks.
Did it take a lot of research to write Molly Ass? That's a great question. I was wondering that too.
More research than I care to remember. Everything from, even if I didn't use a certain thing, I still wanted to understand it before I changed it. So everything from the way like their government and like monetary system functioned to, what the food was like, the architecture and the styles, and like why they built their buildings the way they did, which a lot of it was very practical and basically revolved around how brutal the weather is. Yeah. So they had to build stuff that could blow down easily in a bad storm, but would be easy to build back up. Stuff like that. And then a lot on the language as well. So all the language, all the Japanese in the book is real. I worked with a translator to develop it. And if there's fictional terms, those are real Japanese that are essentially made up, but it's a proper translation.
Dang.
So like Jin and Shura are part of this bloodline called the Shikoken. Okay. And that word means supreme sword. But that's not, like, I made that up for the story.
That's awesome, man. How did you end up finding like a translator? How did that whole process go?
the people you know. So one of my clients went to Japan and met this girl who she's French, but she
Yeah.
speaks French, English, and
Oh, wow.
Japanese. She's been
That's
living there for like 10 years, and they hit it off.
yeah.
And then they're actually going to get married now. But they were in touch, and he said that she'd be willing to help me out because she thought it sounded cool.
That's really cool, man. That is awesome. I should ask for Cinna. She's a big audiobook person. Is there an audiobook currently or planned for Shadowbane?
Planned.
Nice.
Yeah. So my initial thought was I wanted to release the audiobook for each one between the subsequent sequels.
Yeah.
But the way that the budgeting is going to work out, I might have to wait until the trilogy is written and then release the audiobooks. I have an idea, and it's really ambitious, and I don't want to do it any less than 100%, but because that is going to cost more. Basically, Shadowbane is written with an alternating POV between the two main characters, the male and the female protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I want male and female audiobook narrators to do the chapters alternating, but I basically have to pay two people. So.
Oh yeah, that would be sweet though.
Yeah, and I don't really want to do it, either way because their dynamic is the crux of the story, and I feel like the audiobook recording in that way would really bring it to life. Just put it on another level. Mm-hmm. But it's gonna take significantly more money, so just something I have to square with.
Yep, but that is true. That's a very good point. Like it would kind of be a bummer when you have that. That's such a big part of it to not have two different people doing it. Yeah, that's true. I do have to put this one up here real quick because I'm a big Michigan fan.
I saw that. Yeah, that was so my wife watches a lot of college football.
Okay. And
she's an Oregon fan, so they're having a great
year. Yeah, they're having a really good year.
But she despises Ohio State. Yeah. So she was rooting for Michigan.
Good. Yeah, he's a big Oklahoma Sooner fan, and they did not have that luck with their rival, unfortunately. But
oh man,
there's always next year, Britain. Always next year.
I'm a Bears fan. I know all about always next year.
Gosh, man, I'm a Lions fan. How about that Thanksgiving game, huh?
Dude, congrats on your probable impending Super Bowl victory because if it's not going to be us, I'm glad it's you guys.
Oh gosh, after that 0-16 year I lived through back in the day, it would be crazy for them to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, Detroit deserves it as much as any other team.
The Bears fired their coach. You got to be happy about that, right? I feel like they should have done that last year. I was surprised they kept him.
Me too. We're talking about football. Probably shouldn't veer too far down the spiral. Not everyone here is a football fan, but
I know. Oh man. So are you all Chicago sports then?
Yeah, we were both born and raised here, so or born in the surrounding area, and we lived in the city the past decade or so.
Oh yeah. Oh, you do live in the city then?
Yeah, we just moved to a very close suburb, but we're still working downtown.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
We were living, in the city for about 9 years, and then we just moved out to buy property.
Nice. That's awesome, dude. How long? Because you said you moved in the last year.
Yeah, we moved at the end of July.
Wow. Well, congrats. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Were you in an apartment in the city before, or?
Yeah, like a small, 800 square foot,
Oh, yeah.
So now we got a condo, 2 bedrooms, a little bit more room.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Very nice.
It was time.
Yeah.
The dog needed more space.
The dog needed more space. All right. So how long have you been married for?
5 years.
Nice. That was a good, quick answer. Well done. Yeah. Well done.
It's a nice round number. It's not too long where I had to
exactly.
Cut my arm off and start counting the rings.
Oh yeah, Alex said need the space for that nice bookshelf back there.
Yeah, I want to add, but I think this is all I can manage for now.
Oh, I know. We just need every wall in every house to be full of bookshelves. That's just what has to happen.
That's the dream.
That would be nice.
Yeah, I fantasize about having a straight up library.
I know.
It doesn't have to be big, but just a straight room that's it doesn't double as a bedroom. It's not
right.
It's
just a library.
Yeah. Maybe I'll write in there, but
a little desk for writing. Yeah.
Beat up leather armchairs.
Yes.
Something, maybe a vinyl player or something.
Dude, that would be sweet. That would be awesome. I like that.
I can
Let's
dream,
get,
right?
let's get on that. That's right. Oh man, that would be cool. Let's see. Does your wife read? Is she a big reader?
Yep.
Nice. What kind of stuff does she like to read? Has she read your book?
So that's on her list. She's working
Okay.
actually through Joe Abercrombie's Age of Madness trilogy right
That's
now.
sweet that
So she
she
does
likes
read.
that stuff.
She reads some fantasy and sci-fi. She's read the Red Rising series. She has also read a lot of the kind of like psychological thrillers. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Girl on the Train.
Oh yeah.
She took a gander at Colleen Hoover. Didn't like it.
Yeah.
Which I was like, yeah, like good job.
Yeah, you're like, oh, thank goodness. That would never end if she writes so many books. I don't even know how she does it.
Yeah. But yeah, she's pretty broad in her reading.
That's awesome.
And I think I kind of got her into fantasy, which now she appreciates on her own.
Nice.
And then as far as reading my book, we have an agreement where she doesn't read a word of it while it's being drafted. Like I don't ask for feedback. And then she will read whatever I write, but on her own terms, on her own timeline, and I don't ask about it. So I think that's fair. Like I shouldn't, I don't expect any of my friends to like read my stuff.
Right.
I do this because I like doing it, and I don't want people to feel like they owe me anything.
Right. Yeah.
The analogy I always use is if my friend owned a chair store, I wouldn't feel like I had to buy his chair for us to stay friends.
That's true. That's a good analogy.
So like my friends and or Taylor should not have to read my work just for us to still like appreciate each other and have a good relationship.
Right. Yeah, for sure. No, that's a good point. That is very true. Josh here, yes, he like built a shed and turned it into a library himself. That was pretty sweet, actually.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
A book shed.
I know. Pretty awesome. Man, there's something else that popped in my head to ask you, and now it just fell out. Dang it.
Well, I have a quick question for you. Yeah. So I saw that you started writing.
Yeah, writing. Same thing you said. I've always liked to write, even when I was a kid. Like, loved to write stories and stuff, and I've just always dabbled. I did a little bit when like self-publishing through Amazon first got big. I did like some short stories on there and stuff, but then I just, then I got married, had kids, started my career, and then I just did it here and there, but never got serious. But then since I found BookTube and talking to awesome authors like you, I've got re-energized. So I've started like trying to be more serious about it, to try to write a book. So
are you pretty early in the process there?
Yeah. I've kind of mapped out like a trilogy and some novellas, and I've like just a few chapters in to the book, so not a ton yet, but I'm getting there. Just writing a little bit every day. That's my goal now, is to put something in every day, and then see what happens. But yeah, same thing for me. Yeah.
Like, congrats, man. That's cool.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. When I said grimdark, I remembered. So, have you read all the? Molly's leaving. Yeah, Molly. Thanks for coming. I know I got to put my kids to bed too. I keep forgetting that it's almost 10. Here. So, you've read all the First Law books?
I missed out on the Great Leveler trilogy. The one.
Okay, but you did. So you did Age of Madness then.
But and First Law, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Which one? What's your favorite book out of all of them?
Hang on. Trouble with Peace.
Ooh, that is a really good one. I like that one.
And actually, so I'm 90% certain that Taylor's going to get me the middle trilogy for Christmas this year, and I'm going to do a full reread, like from First Law or for Blade itself all the way to the end.
Yeah,
because I feel like I need to reappreciate, the First Law, because it's been a while since I read those.
Yeah, no, you and you cycle. I haven't heard of the Gap Cycle. To write that one down. So when you read those, it would be cool to do that, because it really does. Like, I know they're called standalone, but to me, it's more like books 4, 5, and 6. Like they take some things from the first trilogy and then they set up things for the second trilogy.
So that's why I skipped them initially, and I didn't realize that they still follow. I thought they were like offshoots,
Yeah,
like
I know. That's why I
spin-offs.
wish people didn't call them standalones, because they aren't really.
Yeah, I didn't realize they happened sequentially. So
yeah,
and I think that would give me a lot more useful context to appreciate Age of Madness all over again.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And but yeah, the Wisdom of, or not Wisdom of Crowds, sorry, Trouble with Peace. Just that like long take battle sequence is one of my favorite. Like that needs to be taught in creative writing courses.
Oh yeah.
I refer to it as a literary long take. And when he did that, like he broke like 6 rules. Like you're not supposed to do any of that shit. And
right.
it was, no one cares because it was perfect.
Yeah.
And it delivered you through the, like transported you through the scene so well.
Oh yeah.
That was one of those things where I read that chapter and I put it down and I just sat there trying to absorb the sheer brilliance of what I just put myself through.
Oh, I know. It's so good.
And there's so many good like character moments in that second book.
Yeah. For sure.
And I mean, that one, they're all excellent, but that one I really could not put down.
Yeah. That one was so good. That one's definitely up there for me. Who's your favorite? And this is funny too. This is why you should be excited about the great.
Everyone's saying different,
different ones all in a row. Red Country, Heroes, and then Best Served Cold. They're all so good. So yeah, it's just awesome. Everybody likes a different one more, but yeah, you'll love them. What's your favorite character from Age of Madness and favorite character from First Law?
So Orso and Glocta.
Yes.
Also a really big Ricky fan.
Oh yeah,
Orso was just so likable. Like I was just constantly cracking up, and I really like his arc where he goes from kind of this like apathetic, like kind of down on himself.
That's a great arc. To like a really good leader,
and he becomes everything that basically that his father was not.
Yes,
and he exists as a really good foil. To Leo and all his ignorant scumbaggery
and Leo went the other way.
It's kind of like true heroism versus like the idea of heroism that's actual villainy.
Yes, that was so good. Oh yeah, there's so many good characters. Dogman's awesome too. Yeah, I agree.
The Dogman is I feel like he doesn't get enough screen time, unfortunately. But he was probably my favorite like B-level character. Where you don't get a POV from him, but he's just a strong presence in the story.
Yep.
I actually really liked Black Dow.
Me too.
Just like I like the like asshole with a heart of gold, or like with an honor streak type of characters.
Well, you won't like him as much in the Great Leveler trilogy, but he's
probably not. I mean, I know he actually does have some evil tendencies, but I don't know, for some reason
he's a great character on page all the time.
He did such a good job of characterizing that whole like Logan's band in the first trilogy. It'd really be easy for all those guys to come across as being the same type of character. And they don't get a lot of screen time. So the fact that he's able to characterize them as well as he does is really impressive. Like they all, Harding, Grimm, Three Trees, Tolder, they all feel like different people.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, it's crazy. And you'll love, and what I love is what he does in Heroes. And he does it in later books too, but in that, because it's just one big battle, like the whole book, there's just one battle going on, right? And he does this thing where he focuses on a character you've never seen before, and maybe they have like a paragraph, and in that paragraph you get to like love that character, and then they get killed, and then the person who kills them, it goes to them, and then it keeps doing that, and it's so good. It's like, how can he make me care about this character so much in just a few sentences? It's wild.
So that's what I was talking about in The Trouble with Peace. It's that constantly shifting POV and conventional writing wisdom. You're never supposed to introduce a random character for a paragraph and then leave, and he does it 12 times in a row, and it's incredible.
I feel like and that's where he never did that in the first 3 books, right? I don't remember that. So I feel like he starts that in Heroes, and then you see it in Age of Madness, and it's so good.
And that's it's cool to see an author who's already done really well still trying new strategies, trying new things, and nailing it. In my opinion,
for sure, I agree. Are you excited about The Devils?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
I'm debating if I want to read that before I start the First Law reread.
Oh yeah.
My TBR is getting a little out of hand. So I'm gonna finish the first like Black Company, I think it's like 10 books. The first 3 are its own trilogy.
Yeah,
so I finished that.
First 3.
So I'm gonna finish that. I just started the 3rd one.
Okay.
And then I want to read Mistborn because I've not read any Sanderson, and I feel like I got to do that.
Yep.
He's probably like the biggest author of our day and age right now, so I got to at least.
I know. I just started a year ago too. I read Mistborn first. That's good.
Yeah. And then after that, I guess it'll depend on how long it takes me, because at that point I might just do the Devils, or I might start the First Law reread.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I didn't know Jonathan Mayberry did. He does something like that too. That's cool. Which books does he do that in? The Ledger books, or his fantasy one he just came out with, Hagen the Damned. Yeah, Mistborn is good. And I actually did like Elantris too. It gets a bad rap, but I thought it was pretty good.
So, and from what I understand, so Mistborn, it's another longer series. It's like about 7 books, but the first trilogy, you can read that, and
yes,
you're probably good.
Yeah, it's like and then the next one is further ahead. Like it goes from into more of like a industrial time, where Mistborn is kind of that classic fantasy type world more.
So if the average person says that they've read Mistborn, are they just referring to the first trilogy?
I mean, probably, because they'll probably say Era 2 if they're talking about. Because I've read the first era, Mistborn Era 1, which is that trilogy, then Warbreaker and Elantris, and then Way of Kings, and that's how far I got. So I haven't read the rest of Mistborn yet or anything.
Okay. So Elantris is also by Sanderson?
Yep. Yeah, that was his first book he ever wrote.
Okay.
So some say it's the weakest, but I thought it was pretty cool still.
Yeah, I asked someone who had read a lot of his work, and they know like my taste, and they said that Mistborn is probably a good intro to Sanderson for me.
Yeah, and I think he even says that's where he would say to start is with Mistborn.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, steampunk. That's the other 4 books are steampunk. Then he's going to jump ahead more with Mistborn, where then it's going to be like there's going to be like a cyberpunk one. There's going to be he's got all this cool stuff planned. It's crazy.
Thank you for explaining, Alex. That's kind of what I was looking for. Like if it's a continuation of 7, or if there's like a clear divide.
Yeah, you can just do those 3, and I think he says to do those 3, and then like Warbreaker and Elantris if you want to. For sure Warbreaker, he says, because then in Stormlight Archive it references some of all that stuff.
Yeah. So some 100%.
100%. I agree.
I think one of my favorite things about the Age of Madness, and the reason I probably would say that I liked it better than First Law, is because of the political commentary, and how every revolution that's supposed to overthrow the powers that be that are screwing over the little people, every revolution just makes things worse for everybody. And at the end of the day, it becomes a huge cycle where now you just have another corrupt, self-serving monarchy in place, but half the country's burned down and everything's worse off than it was before.
Right, exactly.
Like everybody's just promising answers to this, tough situation, and where like false hope and rhetoric and violence just get pushed to their logical extremes, and no one benefits for it except for a handful of really rich people who are already not suffering in the first place.
Yeah. Very well said. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I just looked, and it's awesome. Been 20 more minutes, so it is time for me to go. I gotta get my kids to bed, but it's already been over an hour. It flew by, man. This was so much fun. It was awesome.
Yeah, I had a great time.
Yeah, and Britton, I didn't know he hadn't read Age of Madness, so he was just talking about. And First Law has that too, but yeah, Age of Madness definitely does.
So if you liked it in First Law, you'll probably appreciate it more in Age of Madness.
Yeah. Sure.
I have to go back and reread First Law, because it was been several years, so I'm hazier on that one than I am on AOM.
Yeah. Same. All right, so thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here. I don't have it in there yet, but after I get off, I'm going to add the links to your book, and then I'll probably put a link to your website too, because do you sell books direct or just through like Amazon and stuff?
So I have a direct link for the jacket hardcover, because Amazon doesn't sell those.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And then actually my Black Friday / Cyber Monday sale is extended through December 6th.
Oh, nice.
So the Kindle's down to $199.
Very good.
And then
the steal.
The paperback is going for I had to because those print through Ingram, and they gave you free printing for a few days, but they brought the printing costs back up. So it's at the paperback's for $12.99 right now. It's usually $15.99, and the hardcover is $17.99. It's usually $21.99 on Amazon.
That's a really good deal. Yeah.
So those links are all live in my Instagram bio, so you can still get a couple dollars off the regular price through.
Sweet, I'll link that too.
Links in my Instagram bio.
Awesome. All right, cool. Well, that is it. Thanks for everybody in the chat for being here. That was a fun chat. You guys asked awesome questions, and I appreciate you guys being in here. Cal, thank you again for being here once again. It was a lot of fun. We'll have to do this again every time you have a new book come out, or just to chat about Redwall or First Law or whatever. It was fun, man.
Yeah, anytime, man. I'm happy to do it. Thanks again for having me, and thanks to the folks who came and hung out. It's it's cool to see some familiar faces and turning up to spend some time with us.
Heck yeah, I agree. And I just have one more thing to say after all this talk about Age of Madness. For those of you that know, how's the leg? Favorite line.
It is.
Oh, so good. All right. Well, that's all I got, guys. So, as I always say, until I see you in the next one, devour your TBRs, be brave, be beautiful to one another, and be beastly. We'll see you guys. Have a good night.